Every time I got something, I got a medication and that caused another problem. And then I was on more medication. And then I came to a point where I was like, something needs to change. They get very high rates of divorce happens at this time because of all these changes and we don't know what's happening. Like when it's low on energy, it just tells, give me sugar, give me carbs because I need energy right now.
We need to trick the brain with that.
And our muscles is our metabolism. So the more muscle mass we have, the faster our metabolism stays. So people say, oh, my metabolism is slowing down. It's because your muscle mass is decreasing. First of all, I think we have to shout out women for how awesome we are.
Perfection doesn't exist. So this keeps me on the good side of my soul is in peace when I say 80-20.
And it causes stress.
Yes.
If you want to try for 100, it's like,
oh my God,
it's too stressful.
I think we should chill much more and
definitely
reduce the perfection.
Run on the beach with my grandchildren. The first thing that just popped up in my head is a body that's not loved cannot be healed. A body that's not loved,
nice.
It doesn't feel safe.
Okay.
And that was my big change when I started loving me for who I am.
Self-love. Welcome to Femisticated podcast. My name is Lucia and this is our second season. Femisticated is all about women's world. We're bringing different point of views on how to stay sane in this craziness and succeed in this world full of sharks where even feminism is twisted all the way around. We also celebrate women's strength and endless potential and bringing stories only life can write. And today I have here a dear guest. Her name is Karin and she's a hormonal coach. Welcome, Karin, in the studio. I hope that this will bring lots of wisdom and awareness to women who are struggling in different stages of their life with hormones, because I think this is number one issue that we have. Karin, tell us what brings you to that.
So what I work with women between the ages of 35 to some of them are a little bit older, but 50, 55 is usually the age that I work with. And that's usually the time when hormones start shifting for women. And they start seeing things change. And they don't always understand why it's changing and what they can do to actually help themselves through these minor up to very major changes that happens for them. So we can maybe focus on women of this ages that really do struggle right now.
So tell me, that was supposed to be my first question actually. Tell me how you got to this, being a hormonal coach and helping women. And was it your dream come true to do this job and to help women in this area?
Honestly speaking, helping women has always been in my heart. So I struggled as a young girl really with gut issues. I really got sick. I got an autoimmune disease when I was 21 called myasthenia gravis, very scarce. I couldn't see for a year. My eyes didn't want to open. I couldn't speak properly because it affects like the most moving muscles. Although for some women, I was very blessed. For not women, actually men can also get it. But some people land up in wheelchairs. So I've been very blessed to be able to be completely in remission, but helping women just through their struggles. But then I figured out a way how to heal myself because I was 50 pounds overweight. I was on like over 12 medications. I was
That's a lot.
Really sick. And every time I got something, I got a medication and that caused another problem. And then I was on more medication. And then I came to a point where I was like, something needs to change. So I did it in reverse. I figured out how to fix myself. I didn't know exactly what I did. Okay. So that's when I went to study again. So I am a somatologist by trade. So I understand the body. But then I needed to understand what I did step by step to get myself to being healthy, lose the weight, get off the chronic medications. I'm on nothing right now, only a few supplements. And that's when I studied IIN, I became a health coach.
Okay.
And then I didn't really want to go into gut health because I knew so much about it. And I thought, I know nothing about hormones.
Okay.
Let me do a course on hormone health. And that was just the beginning of this beautiful thing that developed. Yeah. So that was in 2020. And after that, it's just been amazing to understand, because I thought I'll never go into menopause because I'm like, I don't know why I believe that. But then now that I know, it's amazing how I can help myself and help others through their struggles.
So I would like to talk about different stages in women's life when it's really important to balance the hormones. Can you tell us what the stages are and how we can differentiate between them and know that something is happening? What are the stages that, cause the struggles and troubles in our life?
So I think it's important to mention like how perimenopause and menopause is like how we can experience it and what it means. So I think first of all, when we just mention that menopause is literally, people always just say menopause, but menopause marks the one day that we don't have a period for 12 months consecutively. So that's the day of menopause. Menopause is a day. After that, everything after that is post-menopause. So perimenopause can be broken up in post-perimenopause. That's the beginning. That's like when there's very subtle shifts in our hormones, a little bit shorter cycles, a little bit longer cycles, maybe one or two longer, one or two shorter, maybe a little bit heavier periods, maybe a little bit lighter. That's usually the very beginning. If you wouldn't specifically document or journal on it, you won't know. Yeah. You will just think
it's normal.
Yeah, something is just a little bit different, but it's still normal.
Okay.
But then we go into our perimenopause phase. This is where now the symptoms that we associate with menopause. So hot flushes, the night sweats, the insomnia or the waking up at 4 a.m. So for some women, it can begin as early as 35. But it's usually around about your late 30s, you would probably have perimenopause until late 40s, where menopause, the average age of menopause is 51. Anything round about, that's what peri means, just round about that time. We have pre-perimenopause, which is like the subtle changes. So that's when, like, it's very subtle. Maybe your period just becomes a little bit further apart, or maybe 2-3 days shorter, a little bit heavier, a little bit lighter, a little bit moody, but nothing really that you would even put your finger on it, except if you were maybe really journaling and documenting your symptoms.
So you don't actually know that something's happening. You don't know that it has a name.
If you knew, then you might know.
Yeah, and there are not a huge changes. It's still working.
Yeah,
body's
still working. It's just the beginning of it. So then we go into our perimenopause stage. This is when the common symptoms that we all know, and there's a lot of uncommon symptoms that people don't really know is actually a perimenopause symptom. So we obviously have our hot flushes, we have our night sweats that everybody knows about, the vasomotor symptoms, but then we get the brain issues where we've the forgetfulness,
brain fog. Yes,
like
I know.
The word recall issues. The word, you're in a meeting, you want to say the word, it's like on the tip
and
of
it's
your
not
tongue.
there.
It's just not there.
And it's not there.
It might even happen today, so let's hope not.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
It does, but that's part of it because the brain also have estrogen receptors, so that's the reason why. Then we also have our emotional symptoms, meltdowns, tearfulness, a lot of crying, maybe meltdowns, extreme mood swings, anxiety, depression, things like that. Then we have a lot of joint issues. We get joint pains, we get it's like a nerve, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a nerve pinch. No, it's almost like a nerve pain that is just unexplained.
So this is all happening
Frozen shoulder.
Wow, this is I think I have all of the symptoms that you told me at some point throughout the month, through different stages of my cycle. So I'm just feeling normal right now.
And that happens, right?
Yeah.
It's the symptoms. And then when we get close to the end of post-perimenopause, like that's very close.
So there is perimenopause,
like a late end menopause.
Post-menopause. I don't know. I'm confused about this.
It is super. So maybe if I can explain it like this, menopause is literally one day. It just marks the day when you haven't had a period for 12 months.
Okay.
So that's literally that's when you know you're in menopause at one day. And then everything after that is post-menopause again. But leading up to that, quite to the end of where you're going to have no more periods, that's for a lot of women when the symptoms really kick the hardest. I think it's good on a podcast like this to mention that women some of them get suicidal tendencies. They get very high rates of divorce happens at this time because of all these changes and we don't know what's happening. So I think it's so important to talk about it because the awareness then creates a lot of almost freedom for the women, knowing, okay, I can work on my marriage because it's maybe just a transition time, or seek help if you have suicidal tendencies because we can speak about it.
Yeah, like if women has awareness about this, that's perfect. But I think also the male part should have awareness of it. That's very important for the males to be educated about this, because you don't save marriage by yourself. You need a partner. You need someone who understands what's going on. So I think that it's great that people are talking about this. And I hope that if men are listening, they will take all of these gems out of this podcast as well, because it is very important to know that these changes are happening. It's hormonal and we cannot do much, but we can help it. So how we can help in pre-perimenopause, perimenopause, post-menopause, to all of these symptoms to be softer or more gentle to our body and mind, because it's all connected.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think explaining all the post and the perimenopause, that the treatment is very much the same. I think if we just start looking after our bodies when we're younger and we really set the stage well, we work on our upstream. I work in a hormonal hierarchy where I believe like the top hormones are the most important, and it has a downstream effect. So balancing your insulin, making sure your blood sugars is kept stable throughout the day, through every meal, having proper...
So that's one of the most important, the insulin and sugar, right?
Insulin and sugar, and cortisol is the second.
And cortisol, that's stress related.
And they actually go hand in hand, because if you think about it, when you go into fight or flight, so you're getting a cortisol response, stressful meeting, crazy traffic, fight with your kid, whatever the case may be, the body gets ready to fight or flight.
Yes.
So it draws sugar from the muscles, glucagon from the liver, for you to either fight or flight.
Yes.
So what does that do? It elevates your blood sugar.
That's true.
So if you maybe, because I see that I work with a lot of women with their blood work, and then they eat really well, but then they still have insulin resistance. And then we usually know, okay, it's a cortisol issue. So we need to go into managing stress. Are you really actively managing your stress? And it's not necessarily just taking a bath. It's a lot of, or a nice bubble bath, and it's a lot of other things as well. It's not.
So how we can, when you're saying managing the stress and insulin is number one bad guy here actually, how can we do that? How can we manage stress? You have 2 kids, they're running around, you have your work, you have lots of responsibilities, you bombarded by all the emails from the schools, and then you have clients, and you are a multitasker. How do you avoid stress, or how do you deal with the stress in this all set up?
So I think with a tangible method, let's go back again to insulin, because insulin, high blood sugar spikes, is extremely stressful for the body. So maybe starting where you have control over what's on your plate. So if you're having a good balanced plate with
nutrition, that's number one.
Just good protein, some veggies, some fruits. Like it's not that difficult to build a good plate.
Is there some ratio of having this certain amount of carbohydrates on the plate? I know we cannot generalize it for each and every woman, but is there some ratio you can help women to understand how they can eat more properly and have a proper nutrition plate in front of them every single time they eat?
Yeah, definitely. And also this brings us also to managing the perimenopause symptoms. We need enough protein, and I find that women are really not eating enough proteins. On a number, if you want something specific, I always say take your ideal weight, 1.5 times is ideal in grams of protein.
Okay.
So for argument's sake, you weigh 50. So you need about 75 grams of protein per day, broken up in your 3 meals.
Meals, yes.
And then it's just, I've got free resources on my website as well that actually gives you like the whole list of like how much protein is in for instance, a chicken breast. How much protein is in 100 grams of steak.
Yes.
And then also your plant proteins for our ladies that are plant-based.
You can get at least idea.
Yeah,
how about,
Yeah, just to know, okay, if I've got a piece of chicken, it's giving me 20 grams of protein or 25. Then it's easy to make sure that you're hitting.
Approximately.
And then the other one that's really important is fiber. Getting enough fiber in, and that's got a whole hormonal reason why we need that.
Okay.
You can talk about that if you want.
Yeah, sure. Tell us the example of fibers that are good for women's body in this time. And also, what is the amount of carbohydrates, for example? How you balance the protein?
Okay, let's do fiber first.
To be safe.
To be safe, because we also don't want to overcarb, and then we sit with a higher blood. And then this is unfortunately what causes this little...
Yeah, the
weight gain around the belly that all women are like fighting with, or most women are fighting with.
I think most of them, yes.
Yeah. So fiber is going to help you a lot because fiber helps to bind with the extra estrogen. And this is what happens in the beginning stages of perimenopause is we have too low progesterone. This is the hormone that drops first.
Okay, progesterone.
And I say this is our keep calm and carry on hormone. Progesterone is super important. So when that drops, our estrogen rises. So we end up having a progesterone dominance issue, which is the problem with struggling with weight. So getting back to fiber binds to the excess estrogen. Okay. And you actually eliminate it through going to the toilet. So the more fiber you have, the more balanced your hormones will be. And I love it. Flaxseed, I think, is a miracle.
Number one.
Fiber for women because it's got the lignans. It's almost like an estrogen balancer. Takes away the estrogen that you don't need, supports the estrogen when it needs it. It's just like this magic little seed.
You can eat it every day.
Every day. Just make sure that it's ground.
That's ground.
Whole flaxseed's not going to mean much to you.
Okay.
It just passes through.
Okay, great. So we had
flax seeds.
Flax seeds, yes.
Yeah, and then I like to bring in chia seeds. I like to, and then obviously from your fruits and vegetables. You have a lot of fiber. I also have a free resource that just helps you to see the amount of fiber in each product, in each fruit, vegetable thing, and then you can work out. You need between 35 and, if you can work up to 45, it will be great. Don't start with 45 grams of fiber. You're going to be bloated, but start at 35 and gradually work yourself up to a 45, and it's going to make a big difference in your symptoms.
So we talk about the protein, fiber. How about carbohydrates? This, like most of the women think that this is the number one enemy to them for the belly fat and weight gain, and they usually avoid that. But is it good to avoid them in general at all, or we need those carbohydrates to be mixed with proteins and fiber?
I definitely believe that we do need carbs. Our thyroid does need carbs. If you struggle with any way with your thyroid, and women, as we get older, we do end up, not all, but I see a lot of thyroid.
I am in the first row of this.
Our thyroids need carbs.
Yes.
But carbs are not created equal. It's very different between a cake or a cookie and a sweet potato.
Yeah, we're talking about healthy carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
So give us some example and the amount we should eat.
The amount, I think, has a lot to do with your activity level and you also monitoring how you feel. I believe in crowding out with good carbs, with your complex carbs. So if you struggle, and it works like a bomb, if you struggle with sugar cravings, upping your sweet vegetables like sweet potatoes, butternuts, carrots, pumpkin, things like that, it's amazing how it brings down the sugar cravings because your body is now getting carbs,
yes.
And the brain is interesting. Like when it's low on energy, it just tells, give me sugar, give me carbs because I need energy right now.
We need to trick the brain with
that's exactly what we
carbs.
Do with so I think there's no limit on sweet potato, on butternut, on pumpkin. Like as much as you'll be full before it's not good for you. Yeah. Be careful with your potatoes. Cooked and cooled rice, cooked and cooled potatoes has got a resistant starch, so that is good for the gut microbiome, which I do bring in a little bit. So if you cook potatoes, let it cool, and then you can always warm it up, but then it becomes resistant. So then it actually hits your large intestine where it feeds the good bacteria.
These are really great advice. If women are listening, at least to know how many proteins, how fiber works, why we need it, and also how we can fight the cravings. I am in a first row of thyroid problems. I do have low thyroid function. Yeah. I also at some point was fighting with a weight gain and my body stopped functioning normally and I had no idea what was going on. And yes, when I start to balance my food and eat more proteins and start to exercise and did all of the things I could, it started to change. So yes, it is a lot of about the mind, about the nutrition, about the exercises. And I know it's very important. So how about exercise? How that help to women to balance the hormones? Is it a good friend of ours?
Okay, it can be a good friend and it can be an enemy.
Yeah, tell me both sides. Why and what can we do to make it to be a friend?
So we lose muscle mass as we get older, and our muscles is our metabolism. So the more muscle mass we have, the faster our metabolism stays. So people say, oh, my metabolism is slowing down. It's because your muscle mass is decreasing. So working on building muscle during this stage is going to be amazing for you.
Okay.
Definitely cardio. I don't think excessive cardio, especially when you struggle with a lot of stress or your cortisol is high.
Yeah.
I see women doing that, and then maybe they are losing the weight, but then I look at the blood work and I see a lot of issues.
It's counterproductive
Yeah.
because you're stressing your body by doing too much cardio.
much cardio.
That's a great news for me, actually. I hate
love-
cardio.
I think there's a lot of my friends that are cardio lovers, and then there's a lot
Yeah.
of them more like...
It's a great news for me.
And I actually got some new research, which I'm actually working out with or trying out with myself, is when they say when you go to the gym, the weights you have to lift is you should be failing by rep 6, 7, or 8.
Okay.
So if you can do 12 reps and you can still go, your weight's not heavy enough.
Okay. So you should be able to do maximum 6?
You should be failing at 6, maybe you can do
yeah?
7, maybe you can do 8 by like hard. But then you'll end up doing 5 sets instead of us usually doing like 12 or 15 reps, low weights, maybe 3 sets.
Okay.
So challenging the muscle with more weight, it's going to build the muscle quicker. And you're going to get that quicker.
That's interesting. I never knew that. When I go to the gym, I will pay attention to this, and it's going to be in my head like,
so good.
Are you failing at 6 or no? Okay,
then
let's do more.
Then you grab another, okay, I'm on 4. I'm like, this is really not heavy enough. Then you go maybe to a 5 or even if you can do 7.5, just make sure your form is well so you don't injure yourself. Don't go for too heavy and then you walk out with the gym with injury. Make sure if you haven't never trained with a personal trainer, maybe get 1 or 2 just so that you know that your form is good. Because we don't want women injuring themselves after this either.
I think every personal trainer should have this knowledge about how the hormones works and how the exercise is influencing women's body, because I have an issue with this where wherever I want to have a personal trainer, I'm talking to them. It's like talking to someone who doesn't understand what I need, what my body needs. I know that they have the knowledge how to build the muscles, how to make people feel more fit and look better. But I don't think that there is enough knowledge about how women's body works throughout the exercise transformation and what body needs. I never ever heard what you said, that you need like less repetitions and more sets when you want to build the muscles and not stress the body. So if you go for more weight, it doesn't stress body that much?
And it puts stress on the muscles. So also then recovery is really important.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't do, maybe you would do 3 days of weightlifting, maybe 4 days. You would break it up. You would do maybe upper body, back, and then you break it up.
Okay.
You give your muscles time to recover because it's about the recovery as well.
Yes.
And this is where that's the difference between the stress. So this is where people that do cardio, they run every day 5 kilometers, or they go and cycle, or what they do HIIT classes every single day. They never give their body a chance to just... And then we can also understand when we go through our menstrual cycle, sometimes in our cycle we'll be better at doing and pushing. And then other times, really, maybe just going for a light yoga class or meditation, or just literally have a nap would be more beneficial for you. So
yoga is also great exercise,
Yeah.
though. I love yoga and Pilates at the first place because it relaxes your mind and relaxes your body as well.
And it strengthens your core and everything.
Exactly.
So it's I love mixing it up. So not just sticking with one. And then also if you want to do a few lighter reps of your weights, you could alternate it. Maybe say once every 2 or 3 times, go for lighter weights, go for more reps, because the muscles and the body gets used to things so quickly. So I think just ways of just making it different, and the body says, oh, maybe I have to do something here. And then
so you can change it from
we can
from
get
time to
results
time.
much faster.
These are really great advice, though. So we talk about nutrition a little bit, about the ratio of the protein, carbs, and importance of the fiber, importance of the exercise. It could be our enemy and also the best friend. Women need to be careful who they listening actually in the gym, and they need to find the right person to tell them how to do the right exercise, not to stress their body, but to get the best out of it. From my point of view, there is a lot of struggles women has. And I remember my mom when I was a little girl and a teenager, and throughout my life when I was looking at her and she went through all of these struggles, that she used to have huge headaches, and like every single month she used to have a headache for a week. But as strong as she could hardly handle it, but she had to go to work. She was under the medication all the time. And person under the medication she had to live through it. So is there something that can help women with these terrible headaches they got? Because it is really bad if you have to function with the headaches and do your job the best you can and pretend actually that nothing's happening. Take care of the kids, take care of the household and working. So what is there for the women like this? Is there some advice you can give them to overcome it? Because that time nobody could help. There were doctors, they didn't even go deep inside of these women health issues. They didn't know, they had no idea what to do.
First of all, I think we have to shout out women for how awesome we are, because we have to push through so much going through these struggles, and we have to try and be the same, especially if you, like you mentioned, you go to work and people at work expect you to be the same, and maybe you're struggling, as you say, with headaches or anxiety or things like that. So I find that headaches is usually estrogen dominance, and that's also, again, when progesterone drops, when we have too much stress, because progesterone and stress fight for the same precursor hormone. So if we're not balancing our stress, our estrogen is going to go up. And elevated estrogen is linked to menstrual and hormonal migraines. So first thing would be just to balance the estrogen, get that down with your foods, with lifestyle, bringing in a little bit of more self-care time. It sounds almost...
Which probably my mom didn't have at all.
Because she didn't have the time.
I didn't have the time. So it's very important to find the time for ourselves to find again stress, which is the number one issue in everybody's life and every woman's life.
But I think we have to make time. And I read something, and I think that clicked for me. And it's called Einstein time. You create time for the thing that you value. The example was like, say now you're sitting and you're working. If say now your husband, he's working, he's so busy. And the kid, Dad, come and kick a ball with me. I'm like, no, I can't because I'm busy. Or maybe your kid falls and he knocks his head and there's blood everywhere. Do you have time for that? You do.
Always.
That's the thing, is you create the time for what you believe to be important. So if it's important for you to look after yourself, you will find a time. You will manage it in between, even if it's 15 minutes. We don't have to do 2-3 hours, but it's the importance of knowing why it's important and actually crafting out.
It's all connected. This is the most important thing, is relationship with yourself, what you have. So the way you behave towards your husband, kids and friends, I think, and you take care of them, I think at the first place you should take care of yourself, because if we don't, then who's gonna?
That's so true. And that's like, they say you can't pour from an empty cup, but I think us women can. We pour from an empty cup, but
and we do it often.
And we pour we pour irritation, we pour like all the negative things. I find that with myself, like the moment I get snappy or I get, this is not me, then I know my cup's empty. So.
But what to do? Sometimes you have no other choice at certain moment. But then when you have this awareness, you can still, go back to square one and let's do it in a different way. So we always can choose the way, but it's so hard, I think, especially for women when they are moms and they have so many on their plate.
So many different things that they need to do every day, right?
For me as well, I'm fighting with thyroid. I'm fine right now, but still not where I really want to be. And I'm trying hard to do all the things, but sometimes you just slip. So my main mantra is 80-20 rule in everything.
That's mine too. Love it.
Because if I had do it 100%, you have to be this and that. As I said, perfection doesn't exist. So this keeps me me on a good side of my soul is in peace when I say
and it causes
80,
stress.
20. Yes.
If you want to try for 100, it's like,
oh my God,
it's too stressful.
But I used to do that and it didn't serve me at all. So I don't know how it was with you throughout your life, but I think there is many perfectionists on this world and also perfection doesn't help to reduce stress. So I think we should chill much more and
Definitely.
reduce the perfection.
And that was with the thyroid as well. It's super important is to find that balance. And then maybe just bringing in a little bit of a tip maybe for the listeners who do struggle with thyroid. 2 things that I always suggest my clients take is Brazil nuts and seaweed.
Okay, yeah.
Those 2, the iodine in seaweed and then the selenium in the Brazil nuts. 2 to 3 Brazil nuts is the amount, because our thyroids really thrive on selenium and iodine. So if we have enough of those, the thyroid is much better supported. So this is part of my supplements. Is I take seaweed in the morning and I take 2 Brazil nuts in the morning as part of my, because I also have Hashimoto. So I also I'm busy working on my thyroid right now.
Yeah. So how about the multivitamins? How that helps? Does that help to support thyroid, or what is your take on that part? And hormones.
Supplements is so difficult actually, because supplements are not regulated by the FDA. So anybody can make a supplement, put it out there. You don't know what you're getting. So this is why when we work with our clients, we give them specific supplements. That's from specific reputable brands that we know and trust, and that we know that they've done the research.
But there are some that you can recommend.
100% there are some, but I think multivitamins miss the mark a lot because they have the lower quality or not the bioavailable forms, especially for like your B vitamins and things like there's different, some are just there, but it's just going to be passed out through urine. Nothing is being absorbed through the body. So it's important maybe I think to work with someone if you want to really have value out of your supplements.
Yeah. So you as a hormonal coach, if somebody comes to you, the woman comes to you and she said, my hormones are all over the body. Something is happening with me and I don't know what. I feel tired. I feel exhausted. And what should I do? So what is the first things that you do with the people who comes to you? How do you help them? So we tell them more about your work.
So there's 2 ways that I do it. So I've done hundreds of blood work on women. So we run functional blood testing. We run it through a functional program that works more on an algorithm. So it gives you like a 3D vision of a picture of what is going on in your body. So with hormones, we obviously need to look at a lot of things. We have to see if you're insulin resistant. We have to see how your liver is working, because if your liver is not detoxifying, it also, for the thyroid, it converts T4 to T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. So if the liver is sluggish, if the gallbladder is not working well, we look at that. We can look if there's parasites. So we look if there's some underlying root cause that could be the reason.
So you go to the root cause.
We also look at the hormone panel, but that's usually like right downstream. We need to see what is going on. So because I've done hundreds of blood work with women, and there's this thread that just goes through all of us, and the same, like we all have the same issues. It's just a little bit more of that. So that's why I created my program called the Fabulous Formula, because it just goes through everything step by step. We start at the top. It's like the hormonal hierarchy. We start with who you are, what you want to be. And I believe if you connect with your bigger why, your deep reason for doing it, and mine is so I can travel when I'm retired. I don't want to be in a wheelchair when I, like,
of course not. Nobody
I
wants
want
that.
to run on the beach with my grandchildren. This is the goal. But so
that's a great goal.
I think so too. It's not about vanity. I think when we get to this age, a nice body is nice, but that's not why we do what we do. So I connect them to the why. Then we go and I teach you exactly how to balance your blood sugar, meal by meal. I give you the recipes. I give you
the nutrition part.
The nutrition part's super important. Then I go in through liver. How do we detoxify the liver? It's not just a detox. We need a detoxification lifestyle. I look at cortisol. How do we manage that? So in the program, I just work through everything that I've seen, and at the end we talk about perimenopause, what you can do right now, and then if you want to do blood work, I'm also available for blood work.
Perfect. So you go through all the blood works and you say how to manage it and how to
what supplements you need
specifically, and you are managing this whole process until the woman comes to the balance with the hormones.
And then weight loss is usually the cherry on top.
That comes with.
It comes with.
Okay. So let's wrap up this session. It was really, really fruitful, and there is lots of wisdom, and I hope that women take a lot from it. What would be number one advice from a hormonal coach to the women that having any issues right now? For example, they don't feel themselves. What should they do?
The first thing that just popped up in my head is a body that's not loved cannot be healed. A body that's not loved, it doesn't feel safe.
Okay.
And that was my big change. When I started loving me for who I am,
Self-love.
Immediately things just... Because the body knows, right? Like every single cell is connected to everything. If you hate this body, how's it going to serve you?
That's really nice advice, really. Love yourself, ladies, because your body will love you back, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you would like to know more about how hormones can be balanced, you can contact Karin on her Instagram page. What's your Instagram page?
Anna of Living, and my website's also www.annaofliving.com. There's a lot of free resources on there.
On the website.
There's a lot of free programs, and then my fabulous formula and how to work with the blood work one-on-one. Everything is there.
I love the name Fabulous Formula. So if you want to go for Fabulous Formula, go to Karin's Instagram. Thank you very much for talking to me about this. It was my pleasure. And to the next one. Bye.
Thank you.